Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Sunday, October 3rd. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Maryland game is in 6 days, the game against Michigan in 55 days. We just wrapped up our coverage of the Ohio State Rutgers game from SHI Stadium, and then they turned out the lights on us. So now we're back in our hotel. I'm joined by Kevin Noon of Buckeye Scoop. Kevin, that was about the first time anyone from New Jersey got the better of anyone from Ohio on Saturday. That was as thorough a beating as you could have possibly imagined Ohio State dishing out to Rutgers.
Right. When we did our predictions, I mean, I had a pretty big score. I think I was like 45-13. I'm like, this game is ripe for that type of outcome, but we hadn't seen it yet. So there was a lot of speculation, and it was nice to see that in terms of Ohio State being able to get out there and execute at a high level. Most of the damage done in the first half. In the second half, it was, let's just get out of here, not get anybody hurt, and on to the next one.
And I had the thought at one point during the first half, like, this is the first time I feel like I'm watching an actual Ohio State football team. And Ryan Day, after the game, basically said that too, which was interesting. It was like, this is the first time it actually felt like this is what this team is supposed to be.
Right, exactly. I mean, we go into the season, all these expectations. Oh, they're returning, the offensive line. They've got everything going on in this position and that position. It all kind of came together today. Rutgers did end up putting up a couple points, but it wasn't necessarily a situation of where we saw this leaky defense that had plagued the team for the first 4 games of the season. It wasn't a case of where we saw just this, out of whack, unbalanced offense. It was a balanced offensive attack. I mean, the defense put up points. Sure, you would like to see maybe some more sacks, some more D-line pressure, but I think when you really look at this game, you're kind of drilling down, trying to find some things wrong with it, and that's what Ohio State fans do. They just, oh well, this is, it wasn't perfect. I mean, there's still other things, but as the calendar turns to October, put September behind, move forward toward November.
Yeah, there was that one 75-yard touchdown pass. It was just hit one big play. Outside of that, they had 70 plays for 271 yards, 3.9 yards per play. Outside of that one big one, which, you can nitpick that, but, that's pretty consistently dominant through the rest of the game. Is the defense to you, is the defense fixed? Is that still like, well, let's see them against a better offense? Because it feels like it's wildly better than it was a month ago, but is it? What's your level of confidence that when they play a Penn State at this point, or when they play a better team, that they really will be able to really hold up in the way you typically think of Ohio State defense as holding up?
Is hella not confident a proper answer there? Because I'm not confident yet, and that's not a case of I don't think that they're not on the road to recovery, that they're not putting things together. But last week it was only Akron. It's only Rutgers at this point, and I understand that this is a Rutgers team that took Michigan to the brink. Very different outcomes there, but Ohio State just sucked the soul out of Rutgers very early in the game, and that was kind of that. So I'm not sure yet. I mean, we did have the opportunity on Saturday night to see a good portion of the Penn State game, and Jahan Dotson's still Jahan Dotson. Sean Clifford's still Sean Clifford. I still don't really feel that Penn State can run the ball with any consistency, but it's going to pose a lot more challenge than Noah Vedral and Cruikshank and some of these other
Isaiah
guys.
Pacheco, yeah. Confidence was kind of a big topic on Saturday, because confidence was a topic with C.J. Stroud as well. C.J. Stroud just had not looked right the first few weeks of the year. He was always messing with his shoulder, and the throws were not quite as accurate as they had been. He takes the Akron game off, comes back, a little more well-rested. He said he was feeling a lot better. I think that week off did him a lot of good. 17 for 23, 330 yards, 5 touchdowns, no picks. That was, for the first time, the C.J. Stroud that I think everyone thought, if everything clicks, this is what this could look like.
Yeah, I think that I probably haven't watched him as closely as I have, or as I did this week. Every pass in the first quarter, we talked about just how slow Ohio State got into games under Stroud, and I watched every throw intently. There were not the leading guys too much, the overthrows, things of that nature. I mean, I should be so lucky to take a week off and come out and perform that well. Our video would be fantastic if I were able to do that, because that week really did a lot. And I think it does a lot, too, to maybe silence some of the doubters and the naysayers out there who just think that there's just some issue with Stroud. I mean, he took the week off, and he came out and he kicked butt. So, whether or not you want to believe that it was something with his shoulder, I mean, that's on you to decide.
Yeah, another young guy who came out and was just fantastic again, TreVeyon Henderson, 8 carries, 71 yards, had a 44-yard touchdown on the Buckeyes' first possession, just right out of the gate, just boom, 44-yard touchdown. There's TreVeyon Henderson zipping down the field again. He only had 8 carries, got just a little ding. Ryan Day said after the game, not a big concern. He was just sort of held out as a total precaution because Ohio State was up by approximately 1 trillion points at that point. He's another person where I feel like we haven't seen everything that there is to see with him yet. I mean, he's had a lot of games where it's been 8 carries, 9 carries. I mean, I think he's had 8 carries in each of the last 2 games. Maybe he had 9 against Akron, but you haven't seen that much from him. But what you've seen is just like, it's incredible what this could look like if he's getting 25 carries at the end of the year. How good could that be?
Exactly. I mean, and on that touchdown run, it was blocked perfectly. I was sitting next to Tony Gerdeman, and he hadn't even gotten out of the backfield, and I said house call at that point because I just saw what was there. I mean, but once he gets into that second level, he's like Tony running toward Miller High Life or ketchup or something like that, because I mean, he just gets out there and or you toward bad predictions. I mean, just it's just he gets out there and it just hits the hole so well. I've equal opportunity. Tony's in the background, and he kind of gave me the evil eye, and I'm a little scared of him.
We all are. Another guy who has had a big day, kind of out of nowhere. Someone who, he hadn't been bad. He just hadn't been producing on the stat sheet the last couple of weeks. Was Chris Olave. He's sort of the ultimate team player. He's not that stressed about his stats. But after this game, he said it was good to sort of feel like you kind of got right. He got right to the tune of 5 catches, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's just. You don't have to have a big game. I think the thing that strikes me about the Ohio State offense is it wasn't a huge day for Garrett Wilson or Jackson Smith-Njigba. Jeremy Ruckert had an okay day. TreVeyon Henderson only had 8 carries but had 1 big play. But it's just they have so many weapons on offense. It's like you can have 2-3 guys have what they might consider an off night, and it's just like, well, then there's still like 3 other guys that can just blow up like Vesuvius.
Well, the sum of the parts. I mean, and you mentioned Jackson Smith-Njigba. I mean, the best throw of the night that I saw from C.J. Stroud is the one that he just dropped it right into the basket for JSN. So, yeah, you don't have to have everybody come out and necessarily come out and play their offensive A game. I mean, you need the offensive line to come out and do that and so on, but when you look at Olave and what he was able to do, I mean, it was great welcoming him back to the stat sheet, because, I mean, he did have the game where he had no receptions and he had the drop, and it just, so it was very un-Chris Olave-like. I really think that when this team needs to put it together here in Big Ten season, whether that's the Indiana game in a couple weeks, whether that's Penn State, whether that's either of the Michigan teams, Michigan or Michigan State, I mean, I think this offense really could be scary. And, I kind of laugh because we heard the term historic offense and talking about Oklahoma last year. I think this is a historic offense for Ohio State. And we really haven't seen that A game yet. And we still, we're looking at Ohio State putting up 52 points. And, again, you got some of the points from the defense. But the only thing that stopped Ohio State was Ryan Day saying, okay, that's it. We didn't, he had the opportunity to maybe take some shots at the end of the half. He didn't. And then, you come out, you bring C.J. Stroud out, you bring the starters out for that first series. And then after that, it was kind of student body right, student body left city.
Yeah. And this was, I think, one of the things that is most intriguing to me about this Ohio State team is so many of the guys who weren't starting a month ago are now like significant contributors, and so many of them are freshmen. I mean, you mentioned the defensive score. That was a true freshman. Denzel Burke, the first score of the game on offense, true freshman. TreVeyon Henderson. Having freshmen everywhere, first of all, if now that they're playing more and the results are better, it's like, okay, these guys are obviously pretty good. But the thing with freshmen that's really intriguing, I mean, the old line, the best thing about freshmen is they turn into sophomores. The best thing about these freshmen is you assume the learning curves, or, the performance curve is going to ramp up pretty quickly because each additional rep means much more than it does for like a third, fourth year guy. I mean, how good could this seems like this could be a historic, you just go back to the historic, a historic impact from a freshman class, not just in Ohio State history, but potentially college football history.
Exactly. I mean, you wonder, we go back in the Ohio State history book and talk about the super sophomores in '68, and then, Ohio State certainly had its class that led to the 2014 national championship. These guys are already biting right now. They're all, as first year players. What is it going to look like year 2? What's it going to look like year 3? As long as Ohio State keeps bringing these guys in, but you also kind of have to wonder what the older guys are thinking at this point, as these young guys are not only nipping at their heels, in a lot of cases they have overtaken them. And I mean, obviously we saw the attrition at linebacker. You got to wonder what else could happen.
Now, I guess the last question here is, this, I think, changed people's views a little bit about what this Ohio State team is. Like, you finally saw an Ohio State team looking like an Ohio State team. How much did Saturday against Rutgers, you're talking about the balance of seeing it look like an Ohio State team versus it was just Rutgers. How much did Saturday change your view of what the likely outcome for the season is, what the ceiling for this season is? How much did that game change your view of those?
I don't think a lot, because I always kind of felt that Ohio State was going to figure it out. I felt that it was going to be there, and the way the schedule was set up, sorry Rutgers, sorry Maryland next week, I just felt that was going to be the time that they were going to go back to the laboratory and kind of get these things sorted out, and then be ready for the second half of the season coming out of the open week after Maryland before you go to Indiana. It was good to see it. I feel better seeing it now than maybe a week from now. If they would have come out and kind of sleptwalk through this game, and it ended, if it would have ended up being 35-31, 35-28, I think that would have been, some alarm bells are going to be going off at that point. But I always felt that Ohio State was going to sort it out. I just didn't think that they were going to come out and make such a definitive statement the way that they did. I mean, very early in the game, it was like, okay, well, they're on cruise control at this point.
Yeah, it was over. It felt like as soon as Denzel Burke crossed the goal line and it was 2 touchdowns in 40 seconds and it was 14-0 Ohio State, it was just like, well, that's it. That'll do it for the game, and there's still 11 minutes left in the first quarter. So, I don't know if everyone was turning the page to the Maryland game at that point, but, you could be forgiven for doing so. Now the Rutgers game is over, so we can officially turn the page to the Maryland game. That's going to be an interesting one. I mean, I wonder what the crowd in Ohio Stadium is going to be like next week in terms of numbers, in terms of enthusiasm. I feel like both of those might be up a little bit from the last time the Buckeyes played at home. You've got, this is another opportunity for this team to continue to build. Maryland looked terrible against Iowa. Presumably, they're not going to turn the ball over 5 times or whatever it was. So it should be a more competitive game than the Iowa game was, probably, but we'll see. But yeah, this should be another interesting week, another week with a lot to talk about around the Ohio State football program. The best place to do all that talking is at BuckeyeScoop.com. We have a fantastic team of insiders. We just got to hang out with Alex Gleitman today, or on Saturday for the first time in person. That was kind of fun. Did our live pregame show with him. So Alex and our whole team of insiders is all on our Ask the Insiders board. Ask us questions, talk about college football, about the Buckeyes in particular, about the Big Ten. It was a wild Saturday in college football. So check out our Ask the Insiders board and all of our staff at BuckeyeScoop.com. You can sign up today to become a member. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the little bell that will subscribe you to our channel. And what that'll do is that'll get you notified every time we post a new video, every time we do a live pregame show, postgame show, player interviews and coach interviews in the middle of the week, post-game interviews, all that stuff. You get notified right on your phone every time we post a new video, every time we go live. So subscribe at youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.